Greetings, everyone. I'm going to share my screen with you as well. I am Carla Tanguayi from Georgia State University, and the title of my presentation is New Teachers' Perceptions of Their Impact on Student Learning While Developing Knowledge and Skills to Teach Online. So, as you know, the health pandemic, COVID-19, brought many challenges to teachers, to students, and to their parents. It was very disruptive to teaching and to learning. However, it did bring some opportunities for teachers who weren't prepared in their programs to teach online to really learn some new pedagogical strategies using digital tools to support student learning and development in remote settings. So the purpose of our study, it was a case study. It was to examine the 2020-2021 pandemic teaching experiences of novice teachers, those who graduated from our programs and were in the first or second year of teaching, with the aim of understanding their perceptions of impact on student learning and development and their own development of knowledge and skills. And so this slice of data is really going to focus on their perceptions of impact specifically. So in terms of our methodology, the context, it was a large urban institution, 23 graduates. You can see the percentages across programs and the percentage of male and female, as well as the demographics there in terms of race and ethnicity. In terms of data collection and analysis, we conducted semi-structured individual interviews, 30 to 45 minutes, and transcribed using Otter AI, and then used NVivo for open coding, axial coding, and following with a constant comparative method. Again, this is a subset of the larger data set, and it is focused just on the impact portion, their impact on student learning and development. 4 themes were focused in this area. The first one was on building relationships and trust with learners and their families. The second one was using students' funds of knowledge to engage them in meaningful tasks. The third, teaching with digital tools, specifically modeling and collaborating with learners. And the fourth one, incorporating various digital tools to monitor progress, assess, and provide feedback online. So thinking about the first theme, building relationships and trust, our graduates talked a lot about connecting, relating, and building rapport. And they did this in a variety of ways, but you can see by these 2 quotes, they talked a lot about strong relationships, fun, engaging lessons where they had opportunities to get to know learners. And in terms of online instruction, they talked about breakout rooms and small groups for opportunities for them to get to know their learners in smaller groups and individually. They also talked about getting to know parents and building relationships and trust with families and guardians by being in constant contact. And they recognized that parents were really more partners because they were the ones that were, especially for young learners, helping them, get online and get in front of their Chromebooks and get access to technology. And so while this was also a challenge, they recognized that they were only able to have an impact when they had strong relationships with parents and guardians in these kinds of ways. They also talked about building relationships also included creating safe, risk-taking environments. And so they talked a lot about encouraging experimentation. They allowed students to make mistakes and to try new things. A lot of students weren't prepared to use technology. And so that really required that they had this attitude of, we're going to learn by doing and trying, and it's okay to make mistakes to learn more. So it was a safe space to learn. The second theme focused on using students' funds of knowledge to engage them in meaningful tasks. And so this is where they really tapped into students' personal interests, their histories, their linguistic and cultural capital. And they used, video and music and even slang to engage with learners. They talked about culturally responsive pedagogy as being a high priority. And you can see from the second quote, a music teacher said that even her singing repertoire represented different cultures, different languages, from composers and arrangers that were from a diverse group of people, and very inclusive, she says, of immigrants, minorities, and women, in order to help students feel like they were represented in the curriculum. Also, they talked about using students' community assets and real world applications. You can see in the first quote, the graduate spoke a lot about using current events. And, the graduate says it was something that caught us off guard, but we as educators, we had to have that conversation. So, really engaging in things that were happening at the time. And if you remember, we were going through an election year. There was a lot of social unrest in the U.S. at the time, and these teachers really had to step up with their students. And in order to engage them in meaningful tasks, they had to have conversations that were related to what students were watching on the news. Particularly, they had to connect to social studies. And you can see at the bottom here, it says, knowing what was going on in the present time, that real application. They recognized that this was going to be a very important thing to engage them online, especially. The third task had to do with teaching with digital tools to model and collaborate with their learners. You can see from the first quote, in the elementary grades, this was a fourth grade teacher who was teaching mathematics, and typically in the elementary grades we use manipulatives in person. And this was a new learning experience, trying to find digital tools to teach fractions. And so you can see, she says, you want to use fraction bars or fraction circles when you're hybrid. And when you're online, it's really hard. So being able to have this virtual fraction strip or fraction bars or fraction circles really helped my students see. So this particular teacher found digital manipulatives to teach math that were really helping her have an impact. The second quote talks a lot about how to collaborate with learners online and to have learners collaborate online with one another so that they could engage and learn. This was a particular quote from a reading teacher who was using Nearpod to get students to work together, to annotate, and to see each other's responses. We also had several others talk about this. These are just a few samples, but I can think of an art teacher who was using digital software in graphic design to show her students, how to do something, and she found that much more effective than even being in person, because she could show her students that on the screen. And then also incorporate various digital tools, not only to teach with, but to monitor progress, assess, and provide feedback online. So pedagogical strategies not only for teaching, but also for assessing. And so these are some examples of monitoring progress using a platform called Amplified, where the teacher could see, their students writing and using Google Docs and then making immediate corrections right there. And then using a platform called Whiteboard, where the teacher could see the student working on the whiteboard, all the students at the same time, and was able to monitor their progress to see how they were progressing. Additionally, assessing and providing feedback. They recognized that they could give feedback quickly in real time. So typically teachers, teach and you can assess while you're teaching, but in terms of when students are working, say on a product, sometimes they take those home and look at those and then provide feedback and return them the next day. But this was sort of an aha that they were able to see right there who's struggling, what are they doing, and they could give feedback right there in real time. So this is a quote about Microsoft Teams adding comments, and sort of another aha where the teacher says, they're more eager to turn in work because they know I'm going to give them feedback. These kids are not motivated by grades, they're motivated by constructive comments. And so that was sort of exciting to see that. So overall, the unexpected outcomes and implications for teachers and school leaders, we found that the novice teachers told us that they really relied on parents more as supportive partners. That was so important to have somebody in the home engaged with them. That they modeled and interacted with students in real time online using these digital tools, and that the unexpected outcome of an increased student motivation and engagement really shined when they were assessing and providing feedback, and when they were facilitating these courageous conversations related to real world events. The implications then for teachers and leaders going forward is really to provide ongoing communication with parents in multiple ways, to really see them as partners, and to use various digital tools in face to face environments to support both the instruction and the assessment, and to incorporate more opportunities for real world applications during instruction, and then for leaders to offer professional learning for teachers on the use of digital technologies. We know how fast technology is changing. And so leaders really, and school district leaders and local school leaders need to be aware that this needs to continue for teachers as recommended by them. That is it. So I will stop sharing my screen and see what questions you might have.